Deliberate silence of male child sexual abuse in Malayalam film industry. Society is usually dismissive of the male child sexual abuse as patriarchy has chivalry as a value attached to protecting girls and not boys. Child sexual abuse is gender neutral. Boys who are sexually abused spend a lifetime in silence because of the stigma and shame attached to the male survivor speaking out. It is a serious problem and needs to be addressed. People live in a patriarchal society and suffer. Patriarchy forces a boy into thinking his abuse is something he can get over without any support. The myth and socialization that men should never allow themselves to be weak have led to a very heavy silence on the issue of male child sexual abuse and thus contribute directly to the vulnerability of the male child. The idea that male child can take over of himself causes a certain relaxation of vigilance that makes him an easy target to sexual predators. Among the 450 million children in India, conceivably 220 million are sexually abused and more than half of them are boys. The negative impacts of male child sexual abuse is prevalent in the society with the emotional and psychological instability commonly associated with child sexual abuse. The number of school dropouts, drug addicts, sex offenders, failed marriages, sex addicts, and misplaced youths increase. Also, the fact that majority of abusers have been shown to have history of abuse make it extremely necessary for action to be taken to break the silence and increase vigilance on male child sexual abuse. The patriarchal nature of Indian society has led to very different expectations from boys and girls. Boys are expected to be manly, hence they do not cry or complain when abused or hurt. Many instances of corporal punishment are meted out to boys till they learn not to cry, and the abuser often says that he has taught the boy to be a man. We have taught our boys not to cry. In reality, we should teach them to express their feelings and emotions, which would help in their brilliant development of personality. India houses 40% of children in its total population but is ranked as the sixth most unsafe country for children. The last government research in India to touch on the issue was carried out in 2007. The Ministry of Women and Child Welfare, supported by United Nations Children's World Fund, reported that 53.22% of children faced one or more forms of sexual abuse. Of those, the number of boys abused was 52.94% and of girls was 47.06%. Children on the street, children in institutional care and children at work reported highest incidence of sexual assault. Child sexual abuse is a traumatic event in the life of a child. Numerous studies have proven that exposure to trauma has significant psychological and psychiatrical consequences, including pathological anxiety, PTSD, and depression. It can be concluded from the mentioned points given by both the clinicians Leonard and Van der Kolk that it is not the trauma itself that caused damage, it is how the individual's mind and body responds to trauma in its unique way, in a combination with the unique response of the individual social group to the traumatic experience they had. Such an experience impacts an entire person. The way they think, the way they feel about themselves, the way they feel about others, and the way they make sense of the world are deeply altered by those traumatic experiences they had in the past. A traumatic event is a frightening, dangerous, or violent event that poses a threat to a child's life or bodily integrity. Traumatic experiences can initiate strong emotions and physical reactions that can persist long after the event. Children who experience an inability to protect themselves or who lacked protection from others to avoid the consequences of the traumatic experience may also feel overwhelmed by the intensity of physical and emotional responses. Cinema has always been one of the most fascinating forms of expression which has made and continues to make a huge impact on human psyche. Kerala has a film literate public which may not hold true for the audiences of films in other languages. The impact of Malayalam cinema on the international arena is also noteworthy. The new wave in Kerala film is to bring up films that speak about unconventional themes like sexuality, gender, and relationships. Even though the film professionals dare to come up with such movies which are a bit more radical, they failed in dealing with the crucial issue of male child sexual abuse in the country. Film should have taken up the issue of male child sexual abusers in order to fulfill the social commitment films have towards society. The brave attempt made by the new generation filmmakers in dealing with those unconventional themes has to be shown in dealing with this issue too. Besides, they stood at a safe distance being blind and deaf. So, this paper is an attempt to analyze how far Malayalam films have succeeded in portraying the issue of male child sexual abuse on screen. The negative impacts of male child sexual abuse is prevalent in the society with the emotional and psychological instability commonly associated with child sexual abuse. The number of school dropouts, drug addicts, sex offenders, failed marriages, sex addicts. Kude is a Malayalam psychological drama film starring Prithviraj Sukumaran, Nasira Nasim and Parvati Thirubootham, written and directed by Anjali Menon. Prithviraj performs the role of Joshua is a victim of sexual abuse and none are aware of it. The movie commences with a long silence and which depicts the silence that infuses into the protagonist later then. In the beginning of the movie, we can identify Joshua as a smart, brilliant and lively boy. For getting his little sister Jennifer better medical support, Joshua had to quit his studies and go for work in suggestion of his uncle. All his dark days begin in due course. When his dad says Joshua is a little boy to get into work, the uncle's indecent reply with a bloody lust in his eyes towards Joshua is that he is not that little. Considering him as a man, the society put over him many conventional standards and expectations like to be the breadwinner of the family. The sufferings of the young boy Joshua was ingeniously handled by the director of the movie by giving a hint through the scene in the train. His maternal uncle grabs his shoulder while bidding farewell to his family, and the next scene in which Joshua standing under a shower with closing his eyes tightly suggests the torment he would have faced over those years lived with his uncle. Amar Akbar Andhoni is a Malayalam comedy film directed by Mdrc. The film propagates a few relevant messages and handles some important social issues. There appears a boy named Sanju of age 8 or 9 who shows some peculiar behaviors and possesses a tense face that never suits for a child of that age. But no one gives any importance to him while everybody pampers and loves a girl called Patu. He lives in that same street, but not a single person inquires about his misbehaviors and strange actions he exhibits. The truth behind his strange character was the trauma which he was dealing with at his young age. He was sexually used by an old man in the street who had a reputed figure there. Everyone in the street calls him Marshall. He often threatens the boy and uses him for his personal will. He is also old and everybody has reference towards him. There appears no chance of narrow suspicion. The boy used to come to Hamar's house to help him at his art gallery. He is an artist too, which is ironically can be said as an artist with a wicked heart. Kerala is a 100% literacy achieved land. Even so, there is not a single film in Malayalam openly dealing with this issue of male child sexual abuse. It is a high time a film has to come into our midway. Cinema has always been regarded as a splendor of civilization. Rather than establishing entertainment as a basic need, it also broadcasts some eye-catching plots which reflect on the peculiar aspects of society and help in creating awareness. Our Malayalam cinemas have played a vital role in changing the society's common perception about most sensitive social issues. But it is so painful to realize that our industry has taken a safe distance from dealing with the issue of male sexual abuse. Film directors fear about how the audience will perceive it. Cinema has a responsibility in informing and persuading people while molding their opinions. Majority of society is not aware about the hugely increasing sexual abuses of male children. The visual display of social issue is very impactful in spreading social awareness. The society can break up their many unwanted perceptions of how a man should be or how they should act or live. An enormous section of lives can be saved from trauma and other kinds of depressions. The negligence of this issue should have to come before light.